Out of every indie horror game movie adaptation that's been both released and announced, Iron Lung is probably the most intriguing out of all of them. Not only was Iron Lung a really small game, only taking me less than 2 hours to fully complete, but it's both directed by and stars Markiplier as the main character. Going into this movie, I had many questions. Would Markiplier's director debut be any good? How well does he play a horror movie protagonist? How are they going to not only implement the gameplay of staring at changing numbers, but also make a plot out of it that will serve a 2-hour film? Well, I just got back from seeing it with some friends of mine, and all of my questions were answered. Some more positively than others. So without further ado, let's dive into the blood ocean of Iron Lung. Starting off with the positive aspects of the movie, as an adaptation of Iron Lung, this movie does a stellar job. The atmosphere feels basically one-to-one with the ship from the game, although the bright red lighting is thankfully swapped out for a more oppressive darkness. There are parts of the film where Simon has to navigate through caves using only his coordinates and movement sensors, which is core to the gameplay of Iron Lung, while still feeling both compelling to watch and like it has a place in the narrative of the film. Features that were in the game but not utilized at all were also expanded on in the movie, such as Simon's communication to the surface being based on the depth he's at, as well as the shield over the window needing to be closed in a really clutch scene where he barely gets it closed in time, blood splashing across his face from a crack in the window. The camera serves several more purposes than originally intended in the game, its main one being used as a light source after the ship's power goes out. We also learn that the camera irradiates its surroundings when it snaps pictures like an X-ray, which explains why in the game pictures only showed us bones of creatures. We learn this through a scene where Simon demands to be let out of the submarine after learning there's something alive in the blood ocean, and in protest, flashes the camera light, irradiating several technicians and scientists. This was a really clever way to show us that we never got a clear look at the monster in the original game, only the bones of it. This also makes a lot of sense, as it is also explained that the reason the sub doesn't have a normal camera is because due to the nature of a blood ocean, an X-ray was kind of a requirement in order to see anything. All of these little details being fleshed out in the movie actively enhance my experience with the original game, something few adaptations are able to accomplish, and this movie has my respect for that. Markiplier's acting in this movie was kinda surprising. I don't know if this is a hot take, as I don't really watch Markiplier's content, but YouTuber acting doesn't exactly have a high reputation.
Why can't I think of any ideas?
So Mark's performance here shocked me. It felt like there was genuine fear for his life in his voice. His anger felt real and compelling. Every time he makes contact with the scientist, he's either pleading for his life or begging for answers to his questions that aren't blatant lies. When he's alone, in the submarine, he doesn't speak all that much unless he's cursing to himself that something didn't go his way, avoiding the common trope of a character narrating every action they do for noise sake. This leads to some genuinely unsettling moments and allows for the movie's stellar cinematography to take center stage. And speaking of the cinematography, this movie had some really cool shots and scenes sprinkled into it. For example, apart from Eva? I think that was her name. The scientists outside of the submarine are completely obscured due to the clever placement of blood staining the window, making it feel even more like Simon is completely disconnected from the outside world. In another scene where the monster is shaking the sub around, Simon hits his head several times, and each time there's an impact we cut to a quick flashback of Simon back on his old space station, before he finally gets fully knocked out. The screen cuts to black, save for the faint glow of the camera button light in the middle of the screen. We see Simon's silhouette stand up, reaching out for the only light on screen, and flashing the camera lights up the sub's interior for a short while. The movie has many interesting shots like this, but it also has shots that I feel linger a little too long to the point they outstay their welcome. Overall, both Mark's acting and its direction are really good, and it faithfully adapts the source material. So what's stopping it from being a 10 out of 10? From here on out in the video, we'll be entering spoiler territory. I'll give you a second to stop watching the video if you'd like to see the movie yourself, but if not, there are spoilers ahead. You've been warned. There are a lot of story beats that aren't explained very clearly. Throughout the entire movie, we slowly learn that the crime Simon is convicted for, the crime that led him to be put on this expedition into the blood ocean in the first place, was that he blew up his old space station. Supposedly. He repeatedly claims throughout the movie that he wanted nothing to do with the events that led up to the explosion, but his homies threw him under the bus, the ones that actually did it, as he says. This is never proven to be true or false. And although we get glimpses at the old space station, we never get to actually see what caused it to blow up, only hallucinations where Simon watches people from his space station burn in the explosion. On top of the crime being confusing, there's also the elephant in the room that's almost never addressed, why people are being sent into the blood ocean in the first place. The scientists talk all this talk of how it's worth sending people into the blood ocean to retrieve a fragment of a skeleton while there's a hostile creature in the water, to retrieve sub-SMH black box in a risky extraction maneuver, and Simon repeatedly asks what makes these tasks worth risking his life for, but we never find out why, even at the very end of the movie. Speaking of the very end of the movie, what the hell was going on with the third act? This movie had a pretty solid story for the majority of it, but after Simon thinks he's making contact with somebody else stuck in the depths, this movie begins to jump the shark, or monster thingy. He hears voices telling him that he can still be saved if he heads to a specific set of coordinates, and that salvation and freedom await him, and all these empty promises that Simon ultimately learns are a lie before the submarine just implodes. But not really, because he's transported to admittedly one of the coolest looking segments of the entire movie, where he's standing on the sea of blood as a skeletal monster with jagged teeth emerges from the shallow blood. But then he's back on the sub, throwing up blood, before actually making contact with Ava and convincing her to come down and mount a rescue mission for him, only for her to get eaten and for blood to flood into his sub, sticking to his skin and tearing his arm off before the monster takes a bite of 87 out of the submarine and the SMH black box floats to the surface. Were you following along with anything I just said? During the final scenes of the movie, me and my friends were just looking at each other in bewilderment, asking each other what the fuck was happening, because none of us knew what the hell was going on. Don't get me wrong, it looked really cool. There's a part where Simon's arm is stuck to a pole due to a weird flesh growth coming out of the blood wrapped around his arm. And in attempting to pull himself free, he ends up tearing himself free of his arm. Not to mention one of the final shots of the movie, we see the monster from outside the submarine chomping down on it like it's kid cuisine. That looked really cool, but it's hard to dissect anything that's going on underneath the impressive surface. Maybe upon rewatching it, some things will make more sense to me and I'll gain more of an appreciation for it, but as it stands now, I'm just confused on what the point of it all was. It's hard to convey how high the stakes of this movie are when we're never told what exactly is at stake. Maybe leaving us wondering was the point, but never giving you the answer feels like your investment was wasted, and overall it soured the rest of the movie for me. Speaking of the monster, it's probably the most polarizing aspect of the movie to me. There are moments, especially in the earlier scenes, where the monster shines as a genuinely scary threat in the movie. Early on, we barely get to see what it looks like. Its eye is staring through the window before it swims away, or the parts where you see it move in the camera feed, the way it shakes the submarine as it swims past or rams into it. It's very reminiscent of how the game unnerved you with this massive subterranean beast attacking your ship. However, the movie takes a turn towards the end where the monster is more eldritch in nature than it ever was in the game. It starts speaking to Simon to lure him into a trap. It uses the blood ocean both to mess with his mind and trap him in place. Its teeth, jaw, and size are monstrous. None of these aspects are reflective in the games, and it's a direction I wasn't a fan of personally. In the game, and again, early on in the film, the monster feels like a force of nature, like a territorial creature attacking something moving in its hunting grounds, like you are simply prey in its eyes, and it's not capable of thought outside of that. However, in the latter half of the movie, this thing is clearly capable of luring humans into traps, toying with its food, causing hallucinations and all kinds of trippy mindfuckery, and I feel that almost took away what made this creature scary, and made the ending much harder to follow. Overall, was this a bad movie? Absolutely not. For what it is, I'd even argue it's phenomenal. Iron Lung, especially for being a YouTube Let's Player's passion project that was entirely funded by him to my knowledge. It had really clever ways of masking its low budget, expert cinematography, a story that leaves you wanting to know more about the world, and skillful acting. Watching this movie didn't feel like I was watching a YouTuber movie. It felt like a film a genuine studio would put out, and I've gotta commend Markiplier and his team for putting together a solid movie independently. That's no easy feat. Personally, I'd give this movie a 7 out of 10 because while it was good, again, it has issues. But I had a good time at this one and I'm excited to see what Markiplier is going to do next. Another Iron Lung movie? Or perhaps a new indie horror adaptation? Or something original entirely? Who knows? If you're still watching, please consider leaving me a like if you enjoyed and send me your takes on the movie in the comments. I'm curious as to what everyone else thinks about the movie, as everything I talked about here was my initial impressions right after watching it, and are only my opinion at the end of the day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.